Dr. Vextera adjusted her sensor arrays for the 100th time, her crystalline appendages trembling with frustration. The readings couldn't be correct. She'd spent 3 decades as the Galactic Research Institute's leading authority on quantum mechanics, but nothing in her extensive studies had prepared her for this. The holographic display before her showed energy patterns that simply shouldn't exist. They radiated from a supposedly primitive world in the outer spiral arm of the galaxy, a planet called Earth. Director Cathol needs to see this, she whispered to herself, her crystalline form pulsing with anxiety. Within hours, the Institute's primary chamber was filled with the galaxy's most brilliant minds. Beings of pure energy floated alongside silicon-based life forms, while gaseous entities swirled in their containment fields. Director Cathol, a massive brain suspended in a transparent solution, pulsed gently as Vextera presented her findings. These patterns, she explained, her voice resonating through the chamber, appear to violate our fundamental understanding of quantum mechanics. They're emanating from every human settlement, every human ship, every human colony. But here's what's truly extraordinary. They're affecting probability itself. The assembled scientists watched in stunned silence as she displayed the data. Around human populations, improbable events became common. Quantum fluctuations that should have been random showed distinct patterns. Reality itself seemed to bend in ways that defied explanation. At first, we thought it was a weapon, Vextera continued. But our analysis suggests it's completely natural to them. The humans aren't even aware they're doing it. A gaseous being named Zephyr drifted forward. How is this possible? Such manipulation of quantum probability fields should require immense technological infrastructure. That's just it, Vextera replied. They're doing it with their minds. More specifically, with their emotions. The stronger the emotional state, the more pronounced the effect. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Director Cathol's neural patterns flickered rapidly. Explain, the director commanded. Vextera brought up new data streams. We've been monitoring human entertainment broadcasts, their literature, their history. There's a recurring pattern. When humans face impossible odds, when they're told something can't be done, when they're backed into a corner, that's when these energy patterns spike highest. She played a series of recordings, a human mother lifting a ground vehicle to save her child, a lone pilot landing a critically damaged spacecraft against all odds, a small group of humans holding off an overwhelming military force through sheer determination. They call it different things, she explained. Willpower, determination, hope. But the quantum effect is the same. They're unconsciously manipulating probability fields to align with their desired outcomes. And they've been doing it for their entire history. An energy being pulsed with skepticism. Surely such a power would have been noticed during their integration into the galactic community. It was, Vextera confirmed. But we misinterpreted it. Remember the Proxima incident, when that human mining colony survived a solar flare that should have vaporized them? Or the Battle of Deneb, where a single human ship survived 17 direct antimatter hits? We attributed these events to luck, to human resilience, to measurement errors. We were wrong. She paused, letting her next words carry their full weight. Humans don't just defy the odds. They change them. Their very belief that they can succeed alters quantum probability in their favor, and the effect appears to be growing stronger as they spread through the galaxy. Director Cathol's neural patterns stabilized into a serious configuration. The implications are staggering, Vextera finished. This isn't just another quirk of biology. This is a species that unconsciously manipulates the fundamental forces of reality through sheer force of will. And they're getting better at it. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. A species that could alter probability itself, not through technology or conscious effort, but through pure emotion and determination. A species that literally changed reality by refusing to accept its limitations. We need to study this further, Director Cathol declared, but with extreme caution. If humans learn to consciously control this ability, that's the most fascinating part, Vexterra interrupted. Our models suggest the effect is strongest precisely because they don't know they're doing it. Their genuine belief in their ability to overcome impossible odds is what makes it work. If we tell them about it, then we risk changing the very thing that makes it possible, the director concluded. For now, this discovery remains classified at the highest level. We'll need to assemble a specialized research team. And most importantly, we need to ensure this information doesn't reach those who might seek to weaponize it. As the scientists filed out of the chamber, Vexterra remained, staring at the data streams. She'd set out to study quantum mechanics and instead had discovered something far more profound, a species that carried within them the most powerful force in the universe, the ability to change reality through pure, unshakable hope. Little did she know, this discovery would soon shake the foundations of galactic civilization and reveal that humanity's greatest weapon had been within them all along. 6 months after Dr. Vexterra's discovery, Research Station Epsilon 9 orbited silently above a gas giant in the Rigel system. Behind its mundane exterior, the station housed the most ambitious joint research project in galactic history. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation window, watching the swirling storms below. Behind her, a team of human and alien scientists busied themselves with an array of equipment that seemed to blend multiple technological paradigms. "Are you sure you want to proceed with this, Commander?" Dr. Vexterra's crystalline form shimmered with concern. "The preliminary results have been unpredictable." Sarah smiled. "That's why we're here, isn't it? To understand the unpredictable." The research chamber had been specially designed for these experiments. Quantum sensors lined every surface, while probability field monitors recorded the slightest fluctuation in local spacetime. In the center stood a simple metal chair, deliberately reminiscent of those used in the first human quarantine procedures decades ago. "Beginning Trial 47, announced Dr. Koss, a gaseous entity whose form was contained within an environmental suit. Subject: Commander Chen. Objective: conscious manipulation of probability fields under controlled conditions." Sarah sat in the chair, her expression calm despite the gravity of the situation. Over the past months, they'd discovered that humans could indeed be taught to consciously access their reality-altering abilities, but the results were far weaker than their natural unconscious manifestations. "Remember," Vexterra instructed, "focus on the quantum matrix displayed before you. Attempt to influence the particle flow according to the pattern we discussed." Sarah nodded, concentrating on the holographic display. The quantum particles should have moved randomly. Instead, they began to show subtle patterns, aligning with her intent. But something was wrong. "Energy spike," Dr. Koss announced suddenly. "Probability field distortion exceeding safety parameters." The particles in the display weren't just moving according to the pattern. They were forming new configurations, impossible ones. Reality seemed to blur around the edges of Sarah's vision. "Shut it down," Vexterra ordered, but the equipment wasn't responding. "Commander Chen, cease your efforts." Sarah's voice was strained. "I'm not doing anything anymore. It's doing it by itself." The quantum field expanded, enveloping the entire chamber. Equipment readings went haywire, showing results that contradicted each other. In one corner, time appeared to be moving backwards. In another, gravity reversed itself. Then Sarah laughed. The sound echoed strangely, and suddenly everything snapped back to normal. The equipment reset itself. The quantum field stabilized, and reality resumed its ordinary flow. "What just happened?" Dr. Koss demanded, his gaseous form swirling agitatedly. "I figured it out," Sarah said, still smiling. "We've been going about this all wrong. We've been trying to control it, to understand it through pure science. But that's not how it works." Vexterra's crystalline form pulsed with curiosity. "Explain." "This ability. It's not about control. It's about faith. About believing in possibilities rather than trying to force them." Sarah stood up, her eyes bright with understanding. "When I stopped trying to manipulate the quantum field and simply believed in the possibility of change, that's when it responded." The implications hit Vexterra like a physical force. The power lies not in controlling probability, but in opening ourselves to it, Sarah finished, in believing in the impossible so completely that reality has no choice but to accommodate our belief. Dr. Koss's environmental suit hummed as he processed this. "But that defies all logical understanding of quantum mechanics." "Exactly," Sarah said. "And that's why it works. We humans have spent our entire history believing in things that shouldn't be possible, and then making them happen anyway. We don't succeed because we understand the quantum mechanics involved. We succeed because we don't let our understanding of quantum mechanics tell us what's impossible." The research team spent the next several hours running new tests based on this revelation. Each time, the results were the same. When humans approached the probability manipulation with rigid scientific intent, the effects were minimal. But when they approached it with pure belief and emotional investment, reality itself seemed to bend around their convictions. "This changes everything," Vexterra said later, reviewing the data. "If humans can learn to consciously access this ability while maintaining their natural emotional connection to it, then we've only seen the beginning of what's possible," Sarah agreed. "But there's something else we need to consider." "What's that?" "If we've discovered this, others will too. And not everyone will want to use it for research." As if in response to her words, the station's emergency alarms began to blare. On the main screen, a fleet of unknown ships emerged from hyperspace, their designs marking them as belonging to the Krelak Empire, a species known for their aggressive expansion and military ambition. "They're hailing us," Dr. Koss announced grimly. The screen flickered to life, showing the insectoid features of a Krelak commander. "Research Station Epsilon 9. This is Commander Zexkar of the Krelak Empire. By order of the Imperial Council, your station is now under our control. Your research into human probability manipulation will serve the glory of the Empire." Sarah stood straight, her jaw set in determination. "Well," she said quietly to Vexterra, "looks like we're about to test our theories under real-world conditions." The quantum sensors around the station began to spike again, responding to the collective determination of every human on board. Reality, it seemed, was about to become very interesting indeed. The Krelak Empire's attempt to seize Research Station Epsilon 9 had triggered something unprecedented, a cascading probability storm that rippled across 3 sectors of space. Ships' navigation systems began reporting impossible locations. Communication networks transmitted messages before they were sent. Reality itself seemed to be unraveling. In the Galactic Council's emergency chamber, representatives from 100 species watched in horror as the probability distortions spread. "The Krelak were fools," Dr. Vexterra declared, her crystalline form pulsing with agitation. "They thought they could force humans to weaponize their ability. Instead, they've triggered a defensive response beyond anything we could have predicted." A holographic displays showed the aftermath of the Krelak's failed assault. Their mighty warships now drifted powerless, transformed by impossible probability shifts. One vessel had become a perfect replica of an ancient Earth sailing ship, complete with solar sails. Another had turned inside out, its crew unharmed but thoroughly confused. "The humans on the research station," Director Cthulhu observed, neural patterns flickering rapidly, "they didn't just defend themselves. Their collective response to the threat has destabilized the very fabric of local spacetime." Commander Sarah Chen stepped forward. After the incident, she'd been summoned to explain what had happened. "We didn't mean to," she said, "but when the Krelak attacked, every human on that station shared the same thought, that we would not let them weaponize this ability. Our combined conviction created a probability cascade." "A what?" demanded the Zephyrian representative, their gaseous form swirling anxiously. "Imagine," Sarah explained, "hundreds of humans simultaneously believing with absolute certainty that the attackers would fail, each person's belief reinforcing the others, creating a feedback loop of probability manipulation. We didn't just change the odds. We rewrote them entirely. The council chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. The implications were staggering. If a few hundred humans could cause this much disruption to reality, what could millions do? Billions? It's spreading, announced a technician, their tentacles waving in alarm. The probability distortions are affecting other regions of space. Ships are reporting random temporal shifts. Quantum communications are becoming unreliable. Dr. Vextera's analysis appeared on the main screen. The initial disruption has created a chain reaction. As more species panic and try to protect themselves from the probability shifts, their actions are actually making things worse. The more they try to impose order, the more chaos spreads. Then we need to stop trying to control it, Sarah said firmly. That's what we learned in our research. The harder you try to force probability to behave, the more it resists. But we must do something. The Medusan delegate's neural tendrils writhed. Reality itself is becoming unstable. No, Sarah corrected. Reality is becoming more flexible. There's a difference. She turned to address the entire council. What we're seeing isn't destruction. It's transformation. The universe is adapting to accommodate a new fundamental force, human belief. Director Cathol's consciousness pulsed thoughtfully. Explain. Throughout human history, we've believed in the impossible until it became possible. We dreamed of flying until we conquered the skies. We imagined traveling between stars until we walked on distant worlds. Our greatest achievements have always started with believing in something that everyone else said couldn't be done. She gestured to the chaos displayed on the screens. This isn't a weapon or a disaster. It's evolution. The universe is learning to accommodate the power of human conviction, just as it once learned to accommodate the force of gravity or the strong nuclear force. And how do we stop it from tearing reality apart? Demanded the Zephyrian representative. We don't, Sarah said simply. We adapt. We accept that reality is more flexible than we thought. The Krelak tried to seize this power by force, and look what happened. The harder you try to control it, the more it spirals out of control. Dr. Vextera's form brightened with sudden understanding. Just like in our experiments, when we tried to rigidly control the probability fields. They resisted, Sarah finished, but when we accepted them, worked with them instead of against them, they stabilized naturally, Vextera concluded. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't facing a crisis that could be solved through traditional means. They were witnessing the birth of a new fundamental force in the universe, one that couldn't be controlled, only understood and accepted. So what do you propose? Director Cathol asked. Sarah smiled. Stop fighting it. Accept that the impossible is now merely improbable, and the improbable is now merely challenging. Embrace the fact that reality has become more interesting. As if to emphasize her point, the probability distortions on the main screen began to shift, forming patterns that were chaotic yet somehow harmonious. The universe, it seemed, was learning to dance to a new rhythm, one written in human dreams and determination. And the Krelak? Someone asked. They've already learned their lesson, Sarah said. You can't force this power to serve you. It responds to genuine belief, to hope, to determination, not to conquest or control. The crisis wasn't over, but its nature had changed. This wasn't a disaster to be averted, but a transformation to be understood. The galaxy was entering a new era, one where the power of human belief would reshape the very foundations of reality. And somewhere in the quantum foam of space-time, probability itself smiled. In the weeks following the probability crisis, a strange calm settled over the galaxy. The initial chaos had given way to something new, a universe that seemed more alive, more responsive to consciousness itself. Research Station Epsilon 9, once a secretive facility, had become a hub for a new kind of science. Dr. Vextera stood in the reform's central chamber, watching as humans and aliens worked together in ways that would have seemed impossible just months ago. The station itself had been transformed by the probability cascade, its corridors now seeming to shift and flow in response to the collective beliefs of its inhabitants. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Sarah Chen approached, carrying what appeared to be a cup of coffee that defied several laws of thermodynamics. "The way everything's adapting." "Beautiful and terrifying," Vex Terra admitted. "We've discovered that reality itself is negotiable." The main display showed data from across the galaxy. The probability distortions had stabilized into what scientists were calling belief zones, regions where the laws of physics became more suggestive than absolute, especially in the presence of strong human conviction. "The latest readings from the Krelak Empire are fascinating," a young physicist named Dr. James Martinez announced, bringing up new data. "Their entire society is restructuring itself. Apparently, when your warships turn into abstract art, it makes you reconsider your approach to galactic diplomacy." The screen showed the transformed Krelak worlds, where once there had been military installations, now stood structures that seemed to blend science and dreams. The insectoid species had discovered that working with human probability manipulation yielded far better results than trying to weaponize it. "We're beginning to understand the fundamental mechanism," Dr. Koss added, his gaseous form swirling excitedly within his containment suit. "Human belief doesn't just affect probability. It creates resonance patterns in the quantum fabric of space-time. These patterns can be amplified or dampened by collective consciousness." Sarah nodded. "That's why the effect was always stronger in crisis situations. When humans collectively believe in something strongly enough, reality adjusts to accommodate that belief." Vex Terra finished. "But there's more to it than that. We're seeing evidence that this ability isn't unique to humans. You've just mastered it unconsciously through your evolution." The display shifted to show comparative data from various species. Every sentient race showed some capacity to influence probability through consciousness, but none had developed it to the degree humans had. "It makes sense," James said. "Throughout our history, humans have consistently done things that should have been impossible. We survived ice ages with stone tools. We looked at the stars and decided to reach them. We faced extinction-level challenges and responded with innovation and determination. You turned adversity into advantage," Dr. Koss observed. "Each challenge strengthened your species' belief that the impossible was merely difficult." Sarah smiled. "And now that belief is changing the fundamental nature of reality itself. But here's what fascinates me. The change isn't chaotic anymore. It's harmonious." The data confirmed her observation. The initial probability storms had given way to a new kind of order, one that incorporated uncertainty and possibility as fundamental principles. The universe hadn't broken under the strain of human belief. It had evolved to embrace it. "Look at this," Vex Terra said, bringing up new readings. "When humans and other species work together, combining human probability manipulation with alien technologies and perspectives, the results are extraordinary." The screen showed examples from across the galaxy. A human Zephyrian team had developed ships that traveled through probability rather than normal space, arriving at their destinations by believing in the shortest possible path. A collaboration between human doctors and Medusan healers had created treatments that cured diseases by convincing reality that the patient had always been healthy. "We're not just changing the universe," Sarah realized. "We're teaching it to dream." As if in response to her words, the station's walls rippled with patterns of light that shouldn't have been possible. But in this new reality, impossibility had become merely another variable to be adjusted through belief and determination. "There's something else," Dr. Koss said, his form pulsing with excitement. "The effect appears to be evolutionary. Each generation of humans is showing stronger probability manipulation abilities, and other species are beginning to develop similar capabilities through prolonged exposure. The universe is learning," Vex Terra whispered. "Through us. Through all of us." The implications were staggering. They weren't just witnessing the discovery of a new force in the universe. They were participating in the evolution of reality itself. The power of belief, of hope, of determination was becoming woven into the very fabric of existence. As the team watched the data flow across their screens, a new understanding dawned. The most lethal substance in the galaxy, human belief, hadn't destroyed reality as they'd feared. Instead, it had opened the door to a new kind of existence, one where the boundaries between the possible and impossible were determined not by rigid laws, but by the strength of conviction and the power of shared dreams. And somewhere in the quantum foam of spacetime, the universe itself seemed to smile, as if it had been waiting all along for consciousness to realize its true potential. 1 year after the discovery that shook the foundations of reality, the Galactic Council convened for a historic session. The chamber itself had been transformed, its architecture now flowing with impossible geometries that somehow felt more natural than the rigid structures of the past. Dr. Vexterra, Commander Chen, and representatives from across the galaxy gathered not to debate or legislate, but to witness something unprecedented. The first intentional, coordinated use of what had come to be called probability harmonics on a galactic scale. "Are you sure about this?" Director Cthulhu asked, neural patterns flickering with concern. "Attempting to coordinate probability manipulation across such vast distances." "That's exactly why it will work," Sarah replied, her confidence radiating through the probability field that now permeated all of space. "We're not trying to control it. We're inviting every species to join in a symphony of belief." The plan was ambitious beyond anything previously attempted. Billions of beings across the galaxy would focus their consciousness simultaneously, not to achieve any specific goal, but to harmonize their beliefs in a better future. Humans would lead the effort, their natural ability serving as a catalyst for other species' latent capabilities. "The resonance patterns are aligning," Dr. Koss announced, his gaseous form swirling with excitement within his containment suit. "We're detecting probability field synchronization across all major sectors." On the main display, the galaxy itself seemed to pulse with new energy. The belief zones that had formed during the crisis were merging, creating patterns of possibility that spread between the stars like cosmic synapses. "It's beautiful," Vexterra whispered, her crystalline form refracting the impossible colors that now filled the chamber. "Reality isn't just accepting our influence, it's embracing it." The coordinated consciousness of billions of beings rippled through spacetime. Ships in transit reported that their probability drives were operating at unprecedented efficiency. Communication networks began carrying not just information, but inspiration, transmitted through the quantum resonance of shared beliefs. And then something extraordinary happened. In the space between stars, in the quantum foam of reality itself, new patterns emerged. The universe wasn't just responding to consciousness, it was awakening to its own potential. The power of belief that humans had unconsciously wielded throughout their history had become a bridge between mind and matter, possibility and reality. "Look," Sarah pointed to the display, where probability fields were forming structures never seen before. "It's not just us affecting reality anymore. Reality is starting to dream on its own." The data confirmed it. The new patterns weren't just reactions to conscious belief, they were spontaneous expressions of possibility, as if the universe itself had learned to hope. The most lethal substance in the galaxy had evolved into something far more profound, a catalyst for universal consciousness. "We understand now," Director Cthulhu announced, his neural patterns forming complex harmonies with the probability fields. "What we initially feared as a weapon was actually a key. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't the power to change reality, but the courage to show reality its own potential." Across the galaxy, the effects manifested in wondrous ways. Dying stars renewed themselves. Barren worlds blossomed with life that existed in quantum superposition, both possible and impossible. The rigid barriers between species dissolved as consciousness itself became a medium for communication and understanding. The Krelak, once bent on military dominance, had become masters of probability architecture, creating spaces where thought and reality danced together in endless possibility. The Zephyrians had learned to exist as both matter and probability, flowing between states of being with joyful exploration. "This is what it was all about," Sarah said softly, watching the galaxy transform. Not controlling reality, but growing with it. Not imposing our will, but sharing our dreams. Dr. Vextera's form pulsed with understanding. The most lethal substance in the galaxy wasn't lethal at all. It was life itself, expressing its desire to grow beyond its limits. The chamber filled with a light that carried not just illumination but possibility. Every being present could feel it. The boundary between the probable and the impossible had become a horizon to explore rather than a barrier to break. "So what now?" someone asked. Sarah smiled, her expression reflecting the newfound wonder that filled the galaxy. Now we dream bigger. We believe harder. We explore not just the space between stars, but the space between possibilities. Reality has learned to believe in itself. And this is just the beginning." As the assembled beings watched, new patterns of probability bloomed between the stars like cosmic flowers, each one carrying the seeds of endless possibility. The universe had changed forever, not through force or dominance, but through the simple, profound power of belief. And in the quantum foam of spacetime, where probability danced with consciousness, the most lethal substance in the galaxy had become its greatest gift, the power to make dreams real and to show reality itself how to dream. The symphony of belief played on, and the universe danced to its eternal melody.